I think it's interesting, and you can see somebody somewhere was extremely creative because as we're sitting here and we're talking to you, I notice you're wearing a Redneck Bank golf shirt.
Right. Yeah.
That's really initially how Wade, you and I met. Is I stumbled upon the Redneck Bank website one day. A friend had told me about it, and Dan and I are always looking for interesting things to share with our people. And here it is, redneck.bank. Could you just tell us a little bit about how the heck this came about? Because this is one of the more interesting things I've ever seen.
Right. Well, as I told you, the internet. uh, I mean, to my recollection, the internet started becoming popular about 1996. That's when I first, got an email and that kind of thing. And but then it's after now, fast forward 5 years. Now we're in the early 2000s, and I looked around and I noticed that we're having to borrow money from the Federal Home Loan Bank in order to have enough money to loan out. And it we started borrowing more and more money so we'd have money to loan. And I couldn't figure out what was going on, but I I guessed that the big banks like Bank of America or whoever were opening lines on or accounts online, and they were sucking that money out of our communities right out from under our noses without us knowing. So people in the that was my guess, and so I went to my dad and brother and said, if we're gonna be bankers, we got to get on the internet. I, we were on the internet. You could view your stuff. You could look up your loan or look and see how much money was in your account. But that was all the functionality, was just viewing it. And so uh, there's a guy named Robert Mendez, and he works at Bank on it, and they network for banks. They, security and all of that stuff. And he told me that he worked at a bank in Bonita, Oklahoma, and he started a bank that specialized in HSA accounts, the health savings accounts. And they branded it that way. And they had one product, and that was to get. That was a sound effect on the website, I think.
Yeah,
But
Made me jump.
we'll get to
yeah, I
that
think
in
that
a
was
second. We'll get to that in a second. Yeah.
but anyway, he said, wait, I'll help you. You can be whoever you want on the internet, because we had three websites and two of them were rural banks, and we had like cattle. Who from California is going to open an account at a little bank in Oklahoma that has cattle on their website? And so he did some focus groups, and he came up with four bank names to look at. And at the time, there were 9,000 banks on the internet. I think there's about half of that now, about 4,500 or so. And I looked at those names, and it just took the wind out of me, because how are we going to get noticed on the internet when there's 9,000 banks on there? And so I was sitting right here where I am now, and I put a thesaurus on one leg and a dictionary on the other leg, and I started at A, and I started typing in these names to see if they were taken. And I became obsessed with it. I started at 10 in the morning and I finished about midnight. But about 10 o'clock at night, I skipped lunch and everything. I went home and I started up again on my home computer, and I got to the R's. I hadn't got to Redneck yet, but I got to the R's, and the name Redneck Bank came to me at that point in time. And so I had 135 possible bank names on a sheet of paper, and I put Redneck Bank right in the middle. And then I took it to our officer meeting the next day, and the two oldest people in the room, which was my dad and another senior officer, they liked the name the best. And all the younger people poo pooed it and said it'll never work. And so we had this great name, we thought, but we didn't know what to do with it. And so uh, Robert, once again, oh, another thing on these bank names, if you register, you register an LLC or whatever through the Secretary of State in Oklahoma, if it has the word bank in it, you have to get approval from the state banking department to use that name. So Robert's saying no matter what name it is, we got to get approval from the state banking department, and you can run it just as a DBA, doing business as. And so that was our plan. And we weren't going to open up a different corporation and all that. We were just going to make it all one and the same. And so we fumbled around with the bank name for about 3 months. And we found this marketing lady in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Her name is Cindy Ford. And she mocked up a homepage, and it was a grandpa on a porch in a rocking chair whittling while his grandson sat in front of him. And so we were going to get together and talk about this. And so that day it was a huge snowstorm. So we all go to bank on it in Oklahoma City. And it's snowing so hard, this lady from Tulsa can't get down. So she logs in. We can see her computer screen in this conference room. This is about 2007, I'm guessing, or maybe 2008. And no, 2007, I think. And everybody talked about it for a while. Well, I had this, one of our co-employees were there, and his name's Johnny. I said, Johnny, you told me your brother would be the first one that opened an account at this bank. And because it's Redneck Bank, I said, would he open an account at this bank that we're looking at with the grandpa? And he said, no. And I told everybody in the room, I said, this is a perfect example of what we don't want to do. We got this great name. They're going to come to the website and then immediately go somewhere else because it's boring. I said, we need to do something. Everybody else has marble floors, marble columns on their website, and they're doing all this stuff for everybody. And we need to do something that just runs right up against the grain of everything. And so Cindy's going, well, will you promise you won't fire me? And she starts, you can hear her typing. And she flashed up on the screen that horse plus the font of Redneck Bank with the red background. And everybody started laughing. And I go, congratulations, you just designed our debit card. And so that was the beginning of it. But it was Cindy Ford. It seems obvious now, the humor, but it was non-obvious at the time. But Cindy Ford's the one that figured out that humor was the way to go. And so then you got to figure out how to do the humor without offending anybody. And she did that through animals and objects. She said, nowhere on this site will we ever have a human reference. It'll be animals and objects only. And so that's what we did. And so my brother, sister, and me, we'd get off to the side and we'd be going through these pages trying to figure out funny things to do, jokes, like the outhouse. We thought that was hysterical for the outhouse to be our login icon and stuff like that. But,
Wait, I got to tell you,
Cindy, she's still, go ahead.
yeah, no, I got to tell you, it's one of the most outstanding things I've ever found on the internet, let alone from a bank website. Hats off to you guys for just being brilliant here. Many times when any industry, any company pushes the envelope, they are going to get backlash and they are going to get people that tell them that they're crazy. And I I think this is and it's not just the design of it. You guys are leaning into this thing so hard. It's beautiful. When you take the cursor and surf around, and we talked about a noise you heard earlier, Dan. If I'm chasing the fly around with the mouse, and it's making the fly noise, and the website is interactive. See, I can.
Right. Well, if you click on login, the fly will go into that.
Look at that.
What I
Oh
appreciated,
my
and
God, that's great.
John and I, John and I probably skirt our way through. I'm going to say like a dozen bank websites a week, sometimes two or three dozen bank websites a week. And they all look because you've obviously strategically made a decision to swing the pendulum way away from that. But they all look the same. The color, it's muted gray and green or blue. And as soon as John sent me this, I was like, we got to find these people. This is the most brilliant. I agree with him. Like not only out there, but unapologetically out there. I mean, there's brands that do wacky things just to do wacky things. This is not a wacky thing just to be wacky. This is a wacky thing because it's who you are, and I can't even express how much I love this. And I could hug you for it.
So,
Well, Cindy figured it out. I just came up with the name, but it was a group effort.
Well, clearly this was a group. This doesn't happen by one person. So
right,
I'm
but
sure there were some people that were more influential than others, but this I think is indicative of just like a boatload of creativity.
so
Yeah.
how did you get it past everybody? Like, how did it?
Well,
There has to be people in your bank that are in charge of risk and in charge of operations, and the people whose job is to keep everyone in the bank from going to jail, right? So
right.
you guys
At
created
the
this. We got
time,
the look, and what happened after
okay. Well, luckily we didn't know what we were doing. And
Ignorance is bliss.
yeah, it really is. So at the time we had three charters. So we came up with three internet bank names. We had AmericaNet Bank, which was the internet division of All America Bank here in Mustang. And we had some outside stockholders in this bank. And then we had the bank in Sentinel, Oklahoma called Southwest State Bank. So we came up with eVantage Bank, and that was the internet division of Southwest State Bank. And because we owned Bank of the Wichitas 100%, we made Redneck Bank the internet division of Bank of the Wichitas because we thought it might be upsetting to the other stockholders that you're just wasting our money, creating all this crazy stuff. And so that's the reason it wound up at Bank of the Wichitas. And so we designed these three websites, and you got to remember back in the early 2000s, there wasn't software readily available to service people on a deposit account all over the country. So we were, you know, duct taping software pieces together to come up for a website that actually was functional. And so we spent about $1 million and worked for over a year to put these three websites together. Well, then we would go to Google, and like eVantage Bank was one. We'd type in eVantage Bank. We'd be on page 3, and we were typing it in exactly by its name. And we figured out you had to pay Google money on these keywords that people were clicking on. So we, with eVantage, we started spending $10,000 a month bidding keywords to the western part of the United States on
that?
eVantage Bank. And then AmericaNet Bank, which was a division of All America, we were spending $10,000 a month on that to Google to big keywords going to the northeast part of the United States. And then we sat around for a while with Redneck trying to figure out what to do because it had been on the internet for a good 10 months, and we were opening one or two accounts a month. And the other sites, they were opening 10 accounts a month, maybe. And so we weren't getting anywhere. And so we put up two billboards in Lawton, Oklahoma that had Redneck Bank on them. And I got a picture of it. I can send it to you. And the hits, we put those up in October. And in December, we got 5,000 hits.
Hmm.
Well, old Johnny, he's in our call center. He's got four people in there, and we have four separate phone lines. So, depending on which number they called, we'd answer the phone, eVantage Bank, American Net Bank, or
Right.
Redneck Bank. But that one website got 5,000 hits, and we're high fiving, going, "Oh, this is great." Well, the hits in January went to 250,000. And then our eyes, we're scared at this point
What have
because
we done?
these, these people are opening accounts and they get a busy signal when they
Wow.
call us. So we started knocking out walls in this call center, and before we could get them taped in and sheetrocked, we get to March and the hits go to 1.2 million just for the month of March.
Wow.
And we're opening 350 accounts a day. And we did not own the piece of software. You gather the information through the web, but then you got to transfer it to your core banking system. Well, we
Mhm.
didn't own that software. I'm not even sure it existed at the time, unless you wrote it yourself. And so we put on the Redneck site on those products, we put sold out and
Huh.
and undid the link. And then we were bringing in people from all of our locations, and we were working 24/7. We had about 10 computers around a board table, and it took about 15 minutes per account to get it on the system and order their debit card and all that stuff. And we didn't even own a phone system to organize these calls, so we bought a phone system real fast and we put in 14 lines. And we went from four people in our call center to 16. We're adding cubicles, moving desks
What
in.
expectations did you have for this when you first launched it? When the site went up, I mean, did you go, whatever we get, we get?
I had no idea of the power of the internet, the volume. And so anyway, we turn on this phone system with 14 lines and it goes, and there's 14 people waiting on hold for 40 minutes were the wait times. And they were upset by the time they got to us. They were mad as could be. But also, we had radio stations calling us just to hear us answer the phone, Redneck Bank. And we'd be live on the air, our call center people would. But AT&T called and they said, "What are you all doing down there?
You're breaking the system.
You're saying you're getting 1,000 calls a day." They thought we were running an escort service or something.
My God.
But so anyway, after about 6 or 8 months, it settled down. But we had to keep sold out. We ran out of capital. You got to put $1 of your own money in for every $10 people are depositing. And so we kept that sold out on there for a couple of years
Oh,
before we had room to open it up again. And so
wait.
anyway,
Did
So
that's
I have to ask, like, were you thinking about where this success came from? I mean, is it just sort of the appeal of the kind of southern,
well,
like the fact that like Green Acres is still being rerun today. So there's that kind of charm and affection toward the southern sort of lifestyle, or was it just so far out from traditional banking that people were attracted to it?
well, I think in order to get, we were concerned that people wouldn't believe it. And so we had a dollar minimum opening deposit. And we thought, well, they'll risk a dollar to see if it's. Well, we did have a credibility problem. Nobody believed it. And the volume of calls to the state banking department in Oklahoma, people were their whole switchboard got bogged down because people were calling saying, "Is this a real bank? I want to open an account." And they're going, "Yeah, they approve the name, because they're our primary regulator." And
Holy crap!
so, yeah, it was
So
a very stressful time.
so I know you, and I'm catching you off guard here because you probably don't have the numbers. Um, but since you turned on the website and you started Redneck Bank, do you have any
Right.
idea how many accounts and how many millions of dollars in deposits it's generated for the bank?
Uh, Over a period of time, it'd be a lot more than that. But our online right now is about 475 million. But when Redneck took off, uh, we opened accounts in all 50 states within 50 days. It,
Wow.
I mean, people from everywhere. And California was the number one. I was worried about opening an account in California, and they were number one. And Oklahoma was number two. And Texas was number three. Florida was four. And believe it or not, New York was five.
Wow.
Oh my
Those
God.
were the top account opening states. And it may be just based on population. I don't know.
People
But
hear
it
about it. I
went
mean, this was
viral.
this yes, this was the viral version, but it was really before social media. It was literally people telling people about it, right?
Yes, I think so. And is it Nerd Wallet? It's
Yeah.
or Fat Wallet or Nerd.
Nerd wallet.
One of them put it on their site, and I think that drove a
Yeah.
lot of a lot of hits. But I
Oh, it's
think
genius.
people, our original card had just the horse and the Redneck Bank lettering, and I think they wanted that card. They wanted to, I go to Wendy's and I hand them the card, and they're going, "Where'd you get this?" And
Wow.
I think they wanted the card just to show their friends. I don't know. We've since redesigned it, and people are asking for the horse back, so we might have to
Hey,
start.
you got to
Of
give them what
course
they
they are.
want. You got to give them what they
Sure
want.
they are.
But
So, what kind of
you have to
opposition?
you have to get these card designs approved by Visa. So we sent the original card design to Visa, and they declined it.
Of course.
And I was devastated. We'd spent $1 million. We're right here at the end to get online, and they deny the card design. And we call them. We go, "Why'd you deny this?" And they said, "Because it's not real." And we
Oh,
go, "Yeah, it is." And we showed them where the site was,
Genius.
and finally they approved it after that. But yeah,
Outside of Visa, did you have internal people like people in charge of risk that have been really tempering some of these things? I mean, how did you? Because having a past bank background, I immediately think, how the heck did this get approved internally? Like but it sounds like everybody was on board from day one. But there has to be somebody that was telling you not to do this.
well, it's mainly our family on the board. However, first of all, fraud wasn't near as prevalent back then. We were charging off about 60,000 a year in fraud losses.
No, it's nothing.
And boy, if we tried to do this today, because you're learning how to manage the risk of it's learn as you go. I can't imagine what our losses would be today. But as far as the board goes, this is the key. Well, there's several keys. If you're going to get online and do this, the first thing you need to do is you need to make your internet division a branch of your bank. So on our software, branch 82 is Redneck Bank. We got 1 through 8 plus 82. We call it our national branch. And that's then, well, where's your branch? Your branch is your call center. So you put in a call center, which scared me the most. I didn't know how to do it, but Johnny said, "Well, hey, I can do it for you." And and the third key is don't try to be everything to everybody. If you do what everybody else is doing, you're not going to make any money. And so we have two products. We have a checking account and a savings account. The more products you put out there, the worse your service is going to be. And so the key was we want them to go to Redneck. They like the name, so they go there. And the next click, they need to be opening an account. And so you want your website really thin. And then if they call the number, they get somebody in the call center who knows all about the website. And you don't have to transfer the call. Whoever answers can help you right at that time. In the old days, whoever was available in the branch location would answer the phone. Well, we learned real fast they knew nothing about what we were doing on the internet, and our service was horrendous. So you train your people in your call center to know that website inside and out. And when they answer the phone, well, first of all, you got to answer the phone. I call these other banks and you get a recorder. Well, we answer the phone every time, unless we're just overloaded, and then it may temporarily. But that would be very rare that a live person didn't answer the phone. So you answer the phone, and whoever answers it can help that person. That's key.
How much?
And don't have
How
a bunch
much?
of products on you.
And that
Go ahead.
makes I appreciate that. That makes tremendous amount of sense because you're streamlining everything. You're being super efficient. Keep it simple, stupid, right?
And educating through all the different levels,
Yeah.
through all the way down to that customer level.
Wade, how much
Right, right.
how much fraud are you seeing currently? Like with fake
We're
accounts trying to be open
probably
online?
a lot. But I think we're losing more in our physical locations than we are on the internet. Uh, we're good at finding fraud on the internet. If 100 people open accounts or make application, 40 of those we don't open. That's
Wow.
how much fraud there is. There's stolen
Wow.
identities, and we have bank to bank transfer. So if we originate, or if one of our customers originates an ACH and sends it out of our bank to another bank, we're responsible for that for 2 months, 60 days, because our bank is the originator. And so you'll be cruising along thinking everything's fine, and 45 days later you go, oh, we have this $5,000 loss on this bank to bank transfer. And so it's quite complex. And so we use electronic systems to detect fraud, but a lot of it is manual. You pull up statement history and you look at what's going on in the account. Is this normal? That kind of thing to try to identify what accounts are not real.
Yeah.
And so,
Can I ask,
yeah,
you are, as far as I know, or as far as we can tell, or as it seems, you're kind of alone in this unbelievably brave and bold marketing approach to who you are and how you do what you do.
yeah, we were
Um,
doing what we were. There's a couple of publicly traded banks that are based in Oklahoma. We were way ahead of them. We were opening accounts. We had bank to bank transfer. They didn't have that. We were doing things that they couldn't do. But
yeah,
it
and I
was
think
just,
the fact that you're succeeding, and we're talking about that success now, is absolutely, I think, confirming to the notion that doing something different pays off. Right? There is a risk there. You took the risk. You're making it work, and it's proving successful to your organization. In this really really unique branding, have you found any downside? Are there customers out there that say, "Well, I still see this as a joke. I'm not going with them at all," or has it just been pretty much a solid home run across the board?
okay. First of all, did I tell you 475 million in deposits? It's 275 million in
Okay.
deposits. I need to make a
That's still
correction.
fantastic. But yeah,
Yeah.
400.
Tomato, tomato.
What's the total deposit base of the bank?
I think we have about 530 million in deposits,
Okay, so
but
it's half
about
your
half
deposit
of it.
base. You have 8 branches in this internet bank, and it's half.
Right, right.
Yeah,
So think about what that does for your bank. We have about 500 million in loans. Well, we would only have 250 million in loans if we didn't have the internet.
right.
So it doubles the amount of money that you can loan into your community. And don't think the big banks aren't taking money out of your own community, because they are. So it's our way of being able to fight back. But now you can dial up the interest rate, and it's like turning on a fire hose of deposits that
Mhm.
start flowing into your bank. Well, you darn sure better have a loan for that money to go in to, or you're going to lose money on
Yeah,
that. And so uh, you lower it, you lower the rate, then there's froth on top, and those people start leaving immediately. So you got to be sure you don't overshoot the runway
yeah,
one way or the other. But if you need, the internet deposits are kind of the deposit of last resort. If if you need it, you probably need it because you're going to loan the money
yeah.
on it, and you better have a loan,
It's a pendulum.
or you can't invest it for enough to make a spread.
Yeah, yeah,
You can't just go buy a treasury and make a spread because your interest rate's too high. It's very competitive on the internet. Our internet rates are higher than our local rates.
yeah,
But anybody in our community is welcome to open an account on our internet.
yeah.
And
Well,
so,
listen, Wade, we are running up against time. I do want to look. I do want to
okay.
touch kind of forward. And God, I almost said forward thinking. You guys are so forward thinking with what you're doing right now. It's crazy. But what if you have a message to your customers or to your staff, like what's the next big thing you guys are working on? Where's the bank headed?
Well, recently we're just under 600 million in total assets, but we blew right through 500 million. We were growing so fast. And when you go over 500 million, there's an extra level of regulatory requirements. You have to have audited financials and balance sheets and other audits. And we're trying to digest all of that right now. It's quite a painful step, or at least it has been for us to go over 500 million. So we don't have a huge growth strategy right now. And our growth strategy is probably, if we have a loan to make, we'll grow a little bit and we'll make that loan. But for the most part, we want to stay where we are until we can absorb this new stuff that we're
Mhm.
doing right now, which is regulatory
Yeah,
stuff.
very prudent strategy.